What's up, man? Well, I think everyone thought that might be an intense fight, and it certainly seemed it. Did you know going into this tonight that this was going to be a scrappy, back and forth affair, considering the emotions you've had this week?
You know, I had a second round. I said this to the media the other day. I said I had a second round submission in my head. But once I felt his power, I knew that we were just going to be too much for him. And it showed in the fight. I was very, very strong. My overhook was so tight that he was pretty much standing up with me, and he couldn't shift me. Once I lock in, it's game over, isn't it?
Is that why you decided to pull guard? Because you knew I'm so strong, I'll be able to control him down here, and he won't even see where I'm going?
You know, ultimately, Brian's game plan, my coach, he decided that it was we were going to take it to him. We were going to be able to strike with him, which we showed we can do. We were using the front teeps to gauge our distance, step in with that 1-2. Unfortunately, I didn't get the 1-2, but I did get the 1. And then as he didn't move back, I took up that space. That's what Brian said was going to happen. He's not going to go back, and then you're going to clinch. We had this sort of half-tie clinch. Same again, the coach had spotted it, we drilled it, we were ready for it, and when I felt it, I was like, oh, this is quite nice. This is genuinely nice. And as I dragged him to the mat, it was just a matter of time before firing up my legs. That's one of my strong attributes, and I've said in past media, it's my brother's curse. You know, my brother used to beat me up as a kid. He was bigger than me then, he's not bigger than me now, and I had to defend with my legs, and that's ultimately how I learned how to jiu-jitsu my way through life.
Brother bullying, the best base for jiu-jitsu. Yep. You said before this fight that his emotions were going to play against him. Do you think that happened tonight?
Definitely. That all meant something to him, losing that 0, and it does to everybody. I was exactly the same when I joined this sport nearly 4 years ago, and it's the great white buffalo. You want to keep it. You want to keep that. You want to be something. You want to be the guy that's 9-0, 10-0, work your way up the rankings. But in this sport, it's hard to keep, and tonight his all had to go.
Talk the submission. His arm's obviously broken. Was he trying to tap? Because from our angle at ringside, it looked like he was trying to tap your leg and just kind of couldn't find the angle to actually make the connection, and the referee didn't step in at that point. Do you think he was trying to tap? Did you feel him trying to tap?
See, when you're in the fire, you don't see it. You're too busy being in there. But as soon as I passed his arm across my hip, I knew it went. I knew all the ligaments had went. You could hear it. You could see it. And I let out a visual mention to the referee, like, hey, his arm's gone. I can't remember exactly what I said. There was maybe a wee F in there as well. And then when the referee couldn't see it, and I'm not sure if he was trying to tap with his arm that was broke or it was just flapping about. I genuinely don't know, but it felt like a elephant's trunk, just going to town there.
How do you know what that feels?
I know, like just touching the elephant trunk, obviously. You know, a Saturday night gets interesting in Scotland. And I had to rain down the elbows because the submission was never ever going to happen after that arm had went.
Would you give him credit for being that tough to take the elbows after the arm break?
Yeah, we don't see that a lot in MMA, guys just taking it right to the wire, but I think after you have made, you've built up this image of being a tough guy, you need to kind of go out in your shield, don't you? You don't have the choice of just saying, oh, I've had too much. And I take my hat off to him because that takes a lot of minerals to do that.
2 more quick ones from me. I don't know if you've seen the replay, if you were able to see the referee's position. Would it surprise you to know that he's a black belt referee?
The referee's a black belt. Now, even that submission was tight, and even the triangle, like I'm not here to slate the referee. He's very, very experienced in his job, and ultimately it's his decision. But without putting a lot of pressure on the referee, it's my opponent's decision to stay in there, and my opponent decided to say, no, my arm's absolutely fine. So it's you can't blame this on the referee.
Fair enough. Last thing, before this fight, your opponent said that one of the reasons he felt such animosity towards you, like he had some messages from fans that were racial in nature. I think most of us would say you don't support that. I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell those people that knock that shit off.
No, like this sport, it doesn't matter what colour you are, what sex you are, we all just get along, and that's the way it should be. And for people that are messaging that kind of shit, it's unbelievable, man. In this day and age that this is actually happening. So sort your shit out, man.
While we're here, what's it feel like to snap a human being's arm inside an octagon?
That's a question and a half. I've actually said to my coaches walked through here, I was like, I didn't think that was possible. I genuinely didn't think biomechanically the arm should do that. But hey, who am I? I have not got a degree in medicine, have I? I just turn up and be a tough guy.
In your last fight, Shogun tapped his strikes. This fight, you snapped your opponent's arm in half. Do you think it's time to start putting your name on those list of most violent fighters in the UFC?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Like, it's not in my nature to be a violent guy. I do a job, and my job is entertaining, and that's what we get. If I'm not getting submissions, I'm getting crazy, broken elephant arms.
Then, is any names you want for your next fight? There's a lot of good light heavyweight fights coming up. Or when do you want to get back in there?
There's the top 10's pretty stacked with guys actually having already been matched up. You know, I'm looking for somebody in that top 10, 9, 10, somewhere in that, maybe 7, as far down as that. But ultimately, it comes down to people have been watching that. There's light heavyweights watching that. And if MD's out there thinks that they've got better jiu-jitsu than myself, then come and prove it. Like, I want to be the guy in the rankings who everybody fears. I want to be the Damien Maya in my division. I want to be that guy where it's like, no, we don't go to the ground with Paul. We try and keep him standing up. We want to knock him out.
Well, I know he has a fight lined up, but I think a lot of people point at Anthony Smith as having one of the better submissions skill sets in the octagon. Is that someone you'd have to fight at some point just to solidify that you are the best in this division?
Yeah, I'd love to have that fight, and he's been very vocal. And he said after his 2 fights ago, he said he'd love to have that fight. UFC had something else in mind for him. I think he's fighting Span at the moment, isn't he? I was meant to fight Span last year before the pandemic hit. You know, I'm ready. If there's somebody out there who wants to take this fight, then ask the boss. But ultimately, I can wait. I can wait for the winner of this. I'm more than happy.
How happy are you to get in there, especially when the weigh-in, you guys got in each other's faces? You know, he felt free to kind of jaw a little bit and say some things to you. At that moment, when it happens, how set is it in your head that you want to make him have a little payback for what happens up there on the stage?
You know, that sounds really nasty. Like I'm going out here and I'm like, I want to kill. Like, I'm not. That's not in my nature. My nature is to do a job, the same as it is for yourselves to put out media. That's your job. My job is just happens to be in violence, and it turns out I'm pretty good at it. So there's no animosity in me when I stand in front of an opponent. I'm fired up because that's my job, and I should be fired up at that point. So no animosity in me. And when it comes to the face-offs, that's for the fans, man. Let's give them something. Let's give them something.
And the war paint, maybe that throws us off. We're thinking you're coming in ready to kill somebody because you come in there with the war paint.
You know, when we put on that war paint, man, we go to war. And I love it. It's patriotic. It makes me feel proud to be Scottish.
And like they brought up earlier, it seemed like you went to the back really, really quickly. Was there ever any point, knowing that he was coming out here saying that his striking was going to, be the answer to your striking or whatever, was there ever any point that you wanted to maybe stand in there and see whose power was better, or was it tough to kind of just stick with the game plan, knowing that once you got him down, that could end it?
Yeah, I think you need to separate your ego from your ability. Like, your ego will always tell you to do the thing that people say is wrong, and for a long time I had convinced myself that I'm going to be a striker. I'm going to be a striker. If it's not in your nature, it's not in your nature. If you can't be ultimately a fighter, then you can't train that. You're either born with the intent to be a fighter or not, and it's the same for jiu-jitsu for me. I can't be a striker because I'm too good at jiu-jitsu. If my jiu-jitsu wasn't as good or was weak, I would need to then rely on my striking. But I believe my striking is very, very good. I'm long, I'm rangy, I'm powerful. Ask MD in the back when they hear me hit pads. Like, the shockwave is heard round the locker room.
And last one for me, and I'm not sure if this was a current video or an older video. I thought I saw something on TV that showed you rolling with John Good and you were showing some moves. Is that the move that you rolled into that eventually got the arm tonight? Do you remember?
So that move is it's the back take. So from back mount, you take a triangle. Triangle is one of these moves. It's just my move. And ultimately, that's what I finished with. The triangle was locked up. It was tight, but it was never ever going to get finished because the arm was just gone. But yeah, to ask you a question, apologies, like, are we over here to come back here? Yeah, it was very, very similar, but the back take wasn't there. It was mounted triangle that I was going for and mounted armbar.
It was spectacular.
Thanks
well done.
very much.
Before the fight, sorry.
Who we got? Tennessee.
Oh,
Where?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Before the fight,
Hey, you doing, man?
nearly the whole audience is booing you. How does it feel when the fight was over to win over the crowd?
You know, it fires you, man. It does fire you up because too much love over. You play up to it, but being the bad guy is good, man. Everybody loves a bad guy, even when we watch Star Wars.
So you're into pro wrestling, so you know about that.
Yeah, yeah, come on. So yeah, it fires us up, and I've got a teammate, Chris Bungard, who shows me the moves to be the bad guy. Dumb as a rock.
I just had a quick question. Did you know that you were a plus 225 underdog? And how do you feel about that, if you did or didn't know?
So I didn't know that, but it was obviously going to be that way. You know, nobody ever rates the gatekeeper. I'm the guy that stands outside the nightclub, you know, and he's like, no shoes, no shirt, you're not getting in, regulars only. I'm that guy. I hope tonight that I've changed from being the gatekeeper, the bouncer, to then moving on to be maybe the contender, the top 10 guy, the jiu-jitsu guy. Also, you know, I feel really bad to see the people that have put on bets. Paul Craig, first round submission, Paul Craig, submission. They're not going to get their money because it's went down as a TKO. Like, I feel really bad about that, and I apologise to everybody out there who's not wasted money, but placed a bet on me, man. I apologise.
Well, congratulations. One other thing I would ask you is, I think you had said at one point you kind of had to come and mature in the UFC, that you didn't, have a lot of experience before you got here. And so is it kind of safe to say that you feel like you're kind of hitting your stride now, even though you're several fights in?
Yep. You know, I said to you before, Callum, I was too early to the sport. I was far too early. I started this sport when I was in my mid-20s. Had got to the UFC by the time I was 30. Too soon for me. I didn't have enough ring time. I won all my fights by first round submission. Had never faced any animosity in the octagon, and that showed in my first 4 fights in the UFC. I was green, and ultimately I had to go back and learn my craft. And learn my craft in the octagon. You don't get a chance to learn your craft out it when you're a UFC fighter. And when you go to any other gym other than your own gym, you're fighting. Everybody's coming for the guy who's in the UFC and the guy who's not the best in the UFC. And I believe I've changed that sort of not the best. I believe I'm in the mix, and I believe that people are scared of my skill set, and I hope people are scared of my skill set, because if they're not, it's going to be a bad night for them, and we've seen that tonight.
Thanks. Congrats.
KB,
Yeah.
we hitting some whiskey up tonight?
Perhaps, yes.
Yeah. And we're out. Dumb as a rock, Chris Bungard.